Hello, everybody. Good morning. Let me switch. Juggling too many cameras. Happy Saturday, everybody. And for those of you in different parts of the world, happy Sunday. Make sure the sound is working. It is. Boom. It's always good when things work. So let's jump in. This is the usual Saturday morning. Try to cover everything in about 10 minutes and load as much information as possibly can in that time frame. Channels about math, money, and freedom. And of course, none of this is ever financial advice. So the story today, real quick, I'm going to talk about the tug of war. I'm going to talk about Apple versus Bitcoin, layer 1's, the all-important daily active users. That's what DAU is. I'm going to talk about layer 2's, ZK rollups, high net worth individuals, investing legends, and if you have what it takes to be like them, the dollar and recession, and where it all goes from here. So a lot of stuff to go through, and let's jump in. First of all, there is this huge Bitcoin narrative now. It's like a weird tug of war. We have a situation where during the Russia-Ukraine crisis, it's stirring the debate about the future of crypto. You know, the use cases, like legitimate use cases like Ukrainian donations and donations to other people as well, or the questionable at best situation like flows from Russians looking to avoid sanctions. Of course, the detractors will jump on the money laundering, sanctions avoiding case, but it's led to a little bit of a whipsaw in the Bitcoin price the last 7 days, last month even. We've been bouncing between 37K and 45K, but I do believe we are very, very close to a bottom, if at all. Now let's look at this one. This is interesting. Bitcoin was in the news as well yesterday late after its average trading volume surpassed Apple's by nearly 60%. Apple is the biggest company in the world. And for the trading volume of Bitcoin to be high, that much higher than Apple is quite astounding. In fact, the daily trading volume for Apple during the 1 month period up to the 10th of March was 15.6 billion, and Bitcoin was 25 billion, which is pretty staggering. Now, simply put, the average daily volume was higher than Apple's by exactly about 58%. Now, if you take that into account, putting all that aside, by my calculations, if Bitcoin was valued based on the amount that Apple was traded, and sometimes it's a metric, it's a bit obscure, but that would mean Bitcoin price would be at 3.6x from here, or worth about 140K. So, not saying it will, but one day Bitcoin's market cap will surpass that of Apple. That I guarantee you. We just don't know when. So in other news as well, Starkware, Starknet, Ethereum Layer 2 service Starknet goes live on Alchemy, promises 100x lower gas fees. And they also had a monstrous $6 billion valuation. Now, Starknet relies on ZK technology, and that's the process of bringing a whole bunch of transactions quickly and cheaply. And they are going towards Vitalik Buterin's vision of a 5-cent transaction fee. That sounds great compared to the $50 you pay now. But remember, Solana, not selling it, but it is still even 2,000 times cheaper than a 5-cent fee. So also, when you look at this, when you look at major crypto players, the question is, like Alchemy, Immutable, etc., that are already using it, the question is, can it save Ethereum? Will it kill MATIC? Note, by the way, MATIC has a market cap of about, last time I looked, about $10.8 billion. Stark is already over half of that, and it just went live. So that tells me, based on how we measure stuff, that tells me the MATIC ecosystem is undervalued today at the current price. So let's talk about MATIC though. However, MATIC did have an outage. MATIC could not confirm any transactions for 11 hours. Some investors did lose funds, not fully confirmed yet, but it appears that way. And remember, and I know Solana did have a 17-hour outage back in September 2021. So this is kind of similar in many ways, but per the team at Solana, nobody lost funds. So we'll dig into that and keep an eye. But basically, busy chains can have issues. This article says Polygon MATIC suffers network outage, sparking a wave of angry users. And we'll see. Now, digging into exactly what happened, Polygon is the mainnet, is a hybrid Plasma proof of stake chain like we covered before, and it uses Tendermint, which is a consensus validator, and a Plasma sidechain for block production. And specifically, the Peppermint consensus engine is also a framework that underpins the Cosmos chain, which is tied to Luna. So everything's kind of interrelated. But it's interesting how A lot of this technology is used to help things scale faster. But what does this mean for MATIC? Well, let's look at the stock, not the stock, the chart for MATIC. As you can see, during the outage, it actually went up. So that tells me either A, it's not bothered, outages are now acceptable for these very fast growing chains. Remember, we are still so early in this whole space. And also, it tells me that MATIC is extremely oversold, benched against the Starkware comparison. So let's jump a little bit further. I want to dig in today one of the top 20 metrics we look at when we value chains. This is called DAU. This is daily active users, a metric that shows the number of unique public addresses that transact with dApps on the smart contract. Now, dApp rankings are based on their DAUs. Therefore, DAU to us is a crucial metric for determining the performance of any dApp and underlying blockchain. We call it kind of the liveliness of the chain, and it is a critical thing to look at. But what did happen as well, again, per Anatoly, he came out in a release and he said Solana is now providing formidable rapid growth in daily active users. It's neck and neck with Polygon and Ethereum, and it's beating them on some days. Solana has over 2 million monthly active users, and Anatoly said they're seeing daily active users exceed that of both Polygon and Ethereum, over 300,000 per day. And that's a critical number to look at. And that to me is an important metric because it signals that there's more real human activity, more people doing stuff on the chain that's valuable to them. And that is a really exciting thing. He is excited about that. His words, not mine. But again, very, very important to look at. These are the top 3 in terms of daily active users today. Now let's compare this to another chain. That's the top chain too. Cardano did have a 470,000 user day back in November, but now they average 100,000 users a day. That's signified by the blue line, which is the daily active users, and the white line is the actual price. So for some reason, despite more dApps being deployed, the number of daily active users is actually going down. And we're not sure why that is. And this data is, of course, from Masari, not from me. So again, it's a critical thing. And we look at this very, very frequently when we look at all of our chains. Now, speaking of other news, Kevin O'Leary. Everybody knows he has 20% of his net worth in crypto. But what's really interesting from this crypto venture capitalist now and venture capitalist in general, his net worth, I dug into it, is about $400 million. And he's got 20% of that in crypto. That's 80 million bucks, which is pretty substantial. And his top holdings are Bitcoin first, Ethereum second, Solana third, and Avalanche fourth. And he sees one of these 3, Ethereum, Solana, and Avalanche, winning the L1 game. So this guy has come a long way from being an absolute hater of Bitcoin to jumping in and becoming a full degen. So well done, Kevin. Now, in other news as well, in extreme fear news, we'll call this segment. This is Robert Kiyosaki. He said, "We are in the biggest bubble in world history and warns government will seize all cryptocurrencies." In his tweet, I won't read his actual tweet because it was a little bit incendiary, but it's there for you if you want to read. Now, sometimes this guy can be a little bit fast and loose, a little bit extreme. He's an author, made a lot of money from selling his book that he used to buy real estate, and that's how he made all of his money, and has been a pretty big Bitcoin, silver, and gold proponent for quite some time. But now he's just being a bit of an alarmist, if you ask me. Basically, this is not the biggest bubble we've ever seen. I've lived through the biggest bubble we've ever seen. When you look at stocks that are trading today, you look at things like Apple, you look at things like Google, you look at things like Tesla, they're trading at PEs and PEG ratios of value stocks. This is nothing like the bubbles we saw in 1999 or other areas. So one thing he did say, though, which is a little bit alarming, and it is a thread, but with all of the executive order stuff that came out this week, he says governments could confiscate, seize all of your crypto. I don't think that's going to happen. That'll never happen in the US. That's in violation of all rights that Americans have. It might happen in other select countries, but I don't see that happening in the US. So that's a bit alarmist. Now, to back Kiyosaki up, though, to show all sides of the story, Jim Rogers says the dollar is in severe trouble and there will be a Bitcoin crackdown. So Jim Rogers is a legendary investor. He warned Washington changing the rules will mean the end to the US dollar. Like, it's pretty clear with the amount of printing that's going on and the whole balance between quantitative easing versus quantitative tightening, the bond market, etc. it's all really a house of cards right now. A very sensitive time. If you look at any of the numbers that came out last week, you'd see that. But back to Jim Rogers. He is the co-founder of the Quantum Fund and Soros Fund Management. And he also said what's happening with the US dollar now is the end of the US dollar. No ifs, ands, or buts. He said dollar is toast. And he said cautioning governments likely won't allow Bitcoin to be used as an alternative. But he did say something that's kind of positive. He said he doesn't know what the alternative would be, but if you are smart enough to buy it and get in early when you find it, it's a good thing. So I think he's saying Bitcoin is not the alternative, but if you know what the alternative is, get it. I think Bitcoin could be the alternative. And because of its nature, maybe Jim Rogers, very smart guy, legendary investor, may not understand a couple of the nuances of Bitcoin that's out there. Anyway, speaking of Jim Rogers, by the way, this is something that we've been working on. It is a beast of a project. A big thank you to the team and Dr. Watson and everybody. We had this vision. We've done a couple of pieces on mapping personality types to investment skills, etc. But speaking of Jim Rogers, over the last few weeks, we've been analyzing the top investors on Earth to uncover their secret traits with a huge quant model behind it. Now, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to see this, because this is going to be a big part of identifying who you are. See if you can run with these big dogs and see what they do. And the key part of life when you are an investor is understand who you are, how good you are, where you are weak, where you are strong. Play to your strengths, shore up your weaknesses. This is what this video is all about. And I've been doing this now for 14 months. I've never been excited about this video. And we put out some big stonkers over time. So this is huge. Anyway, stay tuned for that. Now back to fiat. Here, this is from Nicholas in Denmark. Thank you for that. Fiat currencies have historically recorded an average lifespan of 27 years. US dollar has been serving as a global reserve currency for over 90 years, 40 of which as a fiat, or 50 years as a fiat when it became unpegged from gold. Now, fiat is definitely a Ponzi. Infinite printing will continue, and as Jim Rogers says, it will go to zero. So the point is, everybody, when you have something like the dollar or the euro as a denominator for your assets, even if your assets don't go anywhere, with that denominator going down, your assets will go up. So everybody, please own some hard assets. And in a little bit of bad news, the recession risks are piling up. We covered this last week and the week before, but I did warn of stagflation in a video. And over time, you'll see the three biggest factors that tend to drive the US economy, the European economy, etc., into a recession are: number one, an inverted yield curve; number two, some kind of commodity price shock, oil, for example, wheat, nickel; and three, Fed tightening. So this is, we've got the perfect cocktail of crap all happening at the same time. And then, like, literally, Fed tightening, which is QT, quantitative tightening, they just stopped easing, literally, yesterday. And now, with this storm, I am a betting man, and I think they're going to have to fire up those printers again, especially with all the new $1.5 trillion they just issued as well. So, but the real concern is the US Treasury yield curve collapsed to near inversion, and that's always been a bad omen. But I do believe some positivity here. Things in today's markets turn around real fast. Governments make decisions real fast. They can cut interest rates overnight. They can turn on trillions of money printing and bond buying, etc., overnight. And that'll happen. So especially with the geopolitical backdrop we have today, I think they will start reducing interest rates. In fact, if you look at the 30-year mortgage rate, it's gone up 50% in 4 weeks. So that adds a huge amount of load to your actual expenses. And also, interestingly enough, the 8% of all houses in the US now are over $1 million. Think about that. That is double from what it was a few years ago. It's insane how inflation is hitting everything: real estate, you name it, commodities, gasoline, energy. But with that, everybody, everything will be okay. Get hard assets. I don't care what they are at this stage. Be safe out there. I'll see you all tomorrow. We'll take all your top questions from the week, and we'll do it in the weekly Q&A with some live questions at the end of it. So big thank you as well. Thank you as well to the stickers. We donate everything, make the world a better place. See you all. Happy weekend. Bye.